So we're very excited to have you. My name is Afoma Whitethorpe. I serve as the president of the Recording Artist Project. For those of you that don't know, the Recording Artist Project, or RAP for short, is one of Harvard's 12 pro bono clinics. We work under the supervision of a licensed attorney, and we do student practice organizational work. If you're here, I'm assuming that you are interested in entertainment, media, business, and law in some capacity, and you guys are in for a treat. As you know, this is called the Hitmaker Symposium, and everyone that you're going to hear from today is a hitmaker in their own right. I would do introductions right now, but I literally cannot do them justice because they are just that great. So we also collaborated with Rob and put in work on this esteemed event. Clap it up, clap it up. And so I will let Rob do a quick introduction of Put in Work, and then we are gonna get to it with our first panel, which will be business and legal.
I thank each and every one of you guys for coming. I'm Rob. My name is Robert Kelly Morgan. I go by Rob. I've been a talent manager for 9+ years, and now I own a company called Put in Work. We're an arts and culture media company, and we collaborated with RAP on Hitmaker Symposium, the new age of hip hop. Hip hop saved my life, you know what I'm saying? And it's gave a lot of us in this room life. And it gave these people's career, it gave me a career. It's how I fund myself, how I feed my family. And that can't go unnoticed. And each of you guys, by being here today, these people, these experts, these professionals are gonna help give their perspective and their experiences that will help you guys gain the tools. Because in my 10 years, 5 of it could have been spent just learning. And I would have spent the other 5 doing, rather than just doing the whole time. So that's one of the reasons I linked with Harvard Rap. They give great pro bono services to entrepreneurs, artists, and creatives, and they allow you to save time. When you have education, you save time on failing. You get what I'm saying? And that's a big part of being able to be efficient in your career. So today, you guys, can we clap it up for you guys for coming today? Can we clap it up? Can we clap it up? Because you guys take your careers seriously. And in this entertainment business, not many do. People want the fun of rapping, they want the fun of dancing, they want the fun of entertaining, but they don't want to do the hard work of learning and enlightening. And you guys came here for education. So you guys are chosen ones. And welcome to Hitmaker Symposium, the new age of hip hop. Let's get it.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to bring out our panelists for our business and legal panel. So if they could all come in, and then we will do some introductions for them and jump into it. I know you guys have some burning questions. Let's clap for them, guys. Come on. Awesome. Again, so you guys remember, everyone up here is a hit maker, all right? So I will go down the panel and introduce everyone before we jump into questions. So to my immediate right, we have Charlene Bryant. Charlene Bryant is a force to be reckoned with within the music industry. In addition to leading the business development and strategy team for Universal Music Group Nashville, Bryant oversees the newly created Silver Wings Records, a distribution and independent artist services arm of UMG Nashville. With a wealth of experience and track record of success spanning across country, hip-hop, and Christian music, Bryant brings business acumen, results-oriented strategies, and value for authentic industry relationships. A Canton, Ohio native. Anyone from Ohio in here? No? Okay. Oh, we got someone. Okay. A Canton, Ohio native and Belmont graduate, Bryant joined UMG Nashville after 5 years at the helm of artist management company Riveter Management, which she founded in 2018. She was named one of Billboard's hip hop and R&B power players in 2020 and 2021, was part of CMT and Theory's inaugural Equal Access Development Program, and recognized with Nashville's Business Journal's Women in Music City Award in 2018 and 2019. Next up, we have Lisa E. Davis. Lisa Davis is a prominent figure in the entertainment law sector, serving as a partner and co-chair of the entertainment group at Frankfurt, Kernet, Klein & Seltz. Her extensive career is marked by her roles in the firm's policy committee and as a co-chair of its diversity committee. Davis has represented a wide range of clients within the film, television, publishing, music, theater, and sports industries, showcasing her diverse expertise and commitment to the creative community. Born in Queens, New York, Davis's background is as vibrant as her career. Her early life was influenced by her mother, a retired educator, and her father, a jazz musician. This perhaps sowed the seeds of her future career, blending creative industries with legal practice. After graduating from New Rochelle High School in 1977, she went on to earn her BA degree from the Harvard University in 1981, followed by a JD degree from New York University School of Law in 1985. Davis's career milestones are not only a testament to her legal acumen, but also her leadership in advocating for diversity and inclusion within the legal profession and beyond. She has been involved in numerous panels and presentations aimed at addressing issues such as bias through creation of inclusion workspaces for women of color and the Me Too movement within the entertainment industry. In recognition of her contributions, Davis has been cited in notable publications including Elle Magazine, The New York Times, and Black Enterprise Magazine, where she has been acknowledged as one of America's top Black lawyers and one of the top 50 power brokers in entertainment. Her membership in the New York City Bar, the Black Entertainment and Sports Lawyers Association, and the National Bar Association underscore her influence and commitment to her field. Davis's dedication to her profession and her advocacy for diversity and ethical practices within the entertainment industry have made her a respected voice and leader. Her work has not only impacted her clients, but has also paved the way for more inclusive practices within the legal and entertainment sectors. Next, we have Randy McMillan. In 2018, Randy was named Vice President of Business Affairs, Creative and Licensing at BMI, where he led a team across BMI's creative and licensing divisions, playing a crucial role in negotiating major industry licenses and working closely with BMI's creative teams on songwriter and composer affiliations. Okay, so this just turned on, great. McMillan's career spans roles at Pandora Media as Senior Corporate Counsel, founder and president of McMillan Law, and positions at Universal Music Group, Def Jam Records, and RCA Music Group, BMG Entertainment. His work involved close collaborations with industry relations, content creation, and licensing teams, and he has a strong expertise in intellectual property rights and music licensing. McMillan holds a JD from Boston College Law School and a BA from Cornell University. His upbringing in Brooklyn and journey through higher education at Cornell and Boston College Law School instilled in him a deep understanding of the importance of adapting, effectively communicating, and navigating different worlds. This background has been vital in his career, allowing him to connect with a wide range of individuals within the music industry, from corporate CFOs to managers of newly successful artists. McMillan's approach to business and negotiation emphasizes the importance of understanding others' perspectives to find common ground. He values versatility and adaptability, y'all know what I'm saying, adaptability, considering them crucial for success in the rapidly evolving music business. And what his bio does not say is that he is currently the Vice President of Business and Legal Affairs Music at Roc Nation. Next up, we have Lonray Gaba. Lonray Gaba has made a significant impact in the music industry through her role at Atlantic Records, where she serves as co-president of Black Music. Celebrating her 20th anniversary with the company, Gaba has served in various capacities, including A&R administration, head of urban A&R operations, and general manager of urban A&R, before taking on her current role. She works alongside Mike Kaiser and reports to Atlantic's chairman and CEO, Craig Kalman, and chairman and COO, Julie Greenwald. Gaba is recognized for her dedication, creativity, and experience, contributing to her reputation as one of the most admirable executives in the music business. Her work ethic and deep knowledge of the industry have been instrumental in developing artists and leading Atlantic's Black music department alongside Kaiser. Gaba's career at Atlantic Records has been marked by her involvement in A&R, marketing, strategic planning, finance, and studio operations, working with notable artists such as Cardi B, Roddy Ricch, Lil Uzi Vert, Burna Boy, and many more. She was named RIAA Executive of the Year in 2019 and serves on the advisory board of the Clive Davis Institute of Recorded Music and mentor organization Girl Wonder. In an interview with XXL, Gaba emphasized the importance of the relationship between A&R and marketing in the development of artists, focusing on strategic growth and the necessity of maintaining continuous effort to avoid negatively impacting an artist's career. She also highlighted the significance of earning an artist's trust through respect and the importance of building strong relationships with both artists and their teams. Gaba's approach includes both hands-on, spending time with the artist beyond professional obligations to understand them as individuals. Gaba's work ethic and strategic approach to artist development, coupled with her commitment to building trusting relationships, illustrates her influential role in shaping the careers of numerous artists within the Atlantic Records roster and the broader music industry. And lastly, we have Brian Price. This event would not have been able to take place without Professor Price. He is the founding faculty director of the Recording Artists Project. So before I get into his bio, let's just clap it up for him. Thank you, Professor Price, for bringing music to Harvard Law School, bringing hip hop to Harvard Law School. We couldn't do this without you. Professor Price is a clinical professor of law at Harvard Law School and the director of the law school's transactional law clinics, where he teaches transactional law and supervises the legal practice of law students handling entertainment, business, nonprofit, community economic development, and real estate legal matters. Professor Price also serves as faculty advisor of the Harvard Law Entrepreneurship Project, a student practice organization assisting startup businesses, and was the founding faculty director of Harvard Law School's Recording Artists Project, a music law practice and student organization. In his outside practice, Attorney Price represents the entertainment industry clients, including several Grammy winners, consisting of artists, producers, songwriters, indie labels, multimedia, and marketing firms, as well as other business clients. Formerly, Professor Price was the director of the Harvard Law School Wilmer Hale Legal Services Center, a comprehensive civil law service provider and clinical placement. Prior to joining Harvard Law School, Professor Price served as general counsel and senior director of certification and enforcement at the State Office of Minority and Women Business Assistants within the Massachusetts Department of Economic Development. He was also a member of the legal department of Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and operated his own community-based law practice, specializing in entertainment and business law. Professor Price is a graduate of Princeton University and University of Pennsylvania Law School. Let's clap it up for our panelists. So we'll start the panel off a little light, and we will just go down, starting with you, Charlene. Could you please speak to us about what you do in your day-to-day role?
Oh, every day is an adventure. Because I am in such a new role at Universal, we have one of the only business development departments under company. We literally are building the plane as we're flying it. So under our tutelage, we have Capital Comedy, which is a comedy label. We have Silver Wings, which is a distribution hub. So it's an artist services. Okay, is that cool? I don't have to lean in. Is that, are we still, okay. This is why I don't perform.
You're doing great.
Thank you. And I still hear the feedback. We're gonna push that back because I project from my diaphragm. Okay, and there we go. Yes, so it's an artist services label. So if you want radio, if you want marketing, all the things, we can provide it a la carte for an artist. Neat thing is when I came into the label, I was wanting to do all these different things for artists because I noticed on the country side of things, we didn't have podcasts, TV, film. I sat down with Cindy Mabe, who was my boss, the first female CEO. We're still saying first over here in country too. First female CEO in country music. And I said, why don't we do podcasts? Why aren't we doing TV, film? Why aren't we doing these different services for the artists? Because they do so many things in that label structure. So we built it, and I started doing that back in July.
Awesome. And Lisa, what about you, your day-to-day?
Day to day, you never know who's going to be on the other end of the phone line. So what I do every day is I'm working with clients, and my clients can be artists. I mean, I had a call, just as an example, a couple of weeks ago, a client who represents the estate of a jazz legend said, oh, there's about to be a performance tomorrow night, and someone who was involved in an earlier performance has lodged a copyright claim, and we need you to jump in there because the whole thing could get canceled. So I had to do copyright research, I had to get the history from the client, I had to talk to my litigation colleagues, I had to prepare a letter, and we rescued the concert. So the client was very happy. Sometimes it is, clients that are doing fashion shows, and it's always, they're doing this fashion show tomorrow. Can you review the, it's like, you just found this out? Can you review the contract, mark it up, make sure that it's all good so that they can go and do this fashion show or an ad representing playwrights? So sometimes it is, oh, there's going to be a production of this play, and we need you to look at the option agreement for the play. And I have one playwright, oh, there are these 3 blues songs in the play. Can you find out the copyright so that we can get that cleared so that they can publish the play? So it's intellectual property, it's contracts, it's dealing with egos, it's all of that all the time.
It is all that. I have to second Lisa's description. For me, I've spent most of my career in-house at major music companies in some way, shape, or form in different areas of the music industry. And from day to day, you never really know. You have a plan. You'll start off with a plan for what you want to accomplish that day. And that's usually based upon a number of open deals that you're negotiating. And so you want to try to get them closed in some way, shape, or form, or at least progress them. But usually through email or phone or text or someone physically walking into your office, a new adventure will be introduced to you that needs to be accomplished. And that could be anything from, we have a video that we're launching today on TikTok, but we just found out that video has a number of tracks on it that are Universal Music Group tracks, and Universal Music Group is fighting with TikTok, so if we send it to TikTok, they're gonna pull it down. We need you to fix it. So those are the ways that things can just sort of pop up into your sort of daily plans to sort of impact what you're going to do, and how you resolve those issues are going to draw upon many different talents and skills. A lot of interview skills, talking to people who have information to try to extract facts so that you can better really understand what the issue is and how to tackle it and come up with solutions. That's like a daily occurrence. And so, you can apply that type of scenario to many different types of issues that arise in the daily space, whether it's at a record label or an artist management company or a record distribution company. Those are the types, that's the form that issues can take in many different ways. So, typical day.
I think very, kind of similar to everybody. No day is the same working for a major label. And definitely in the role that I play, before I became co-president of all of the Black Music Division, I was running the A&R department. I still am running the A&R department. And so I am very heavily involved in going out and finding artists, figuring out the kinds of artists we want to sign. So that's anything from going to shows, going to someone's hometown and spending time with them, to at the point at which we're ready to do the deal, working with my legal team to make sure the business makes sense. And, we're always trying to make sure we're doing the right deal. Obviously, that's fair to the artist, but also is going to make sense for me for, at the end of the day, I'm in charge of a bottom line. To being in the studio aspect of it and the music side of it. So I am developing relationships with songwriters and producers, making sure our artists have the best songs, just helping them along their career. And now in this role where I'm also kind of running the whole division, everything that goes into an artist's career at Atlantic. And so that is all of the marketing, the digital marketing, making sure we're just, we're very long-term artist career focused, very artist development focused. We want to be in business with artists and artists who want to have long-term careers. So touring is very important, and the strategy around how you tour the right way, The brand is very important. And it starts in the music side. What are you saying in your music that's going to make you stand out? How are you presenting yourself as an artist? How is every single detail of all the things you do line up to make sure you can be one of the biggest, best artists in the world, and just connecting all those dots every day. So that's kind of my day-to-day.
So I wear a few different hats, so I'll just confine what I do day to day to the entertainment space. I'm an educator, but I'm also an empowerer. And so to me, the biggest thing is to help people. That's how I focus the practice, and that's what I teach students. We're in the business of helping people. So when the Recording Artists Project first started, it was 1999, it came because we wanted to empower musicians to learn, to know. There's no deal that's too small because we're talking about people's livelihoods. There are some deals that come through. Language is kind of funky, and every word matters. So we're helping people, and the entertainment space is business. So it's important to know transactions in general, know how to lawyer in general, and a lot of that involves contract review, contract preparation, negotiation, some legal research, copyright, trademark issues, ability to use things lawfully. There's a lot of sort of myths about copyright law that we try to demystify for people. It's about trademark we try to demystify. At the end of the day, we're talking about people's livelihoods and people's lives. And being a creator is a very emotional experience for artists. And so we really want to take things seriously. So that's part of what we try to instill with students is every deal is different, every human being is different. Pay attention to what their interests are in the scenario. Don't impose your values on the client's values and what they should want, but listen carefully. As all the other panelists said, every day is different. Lawyers, in terms of the types of deals. Right now, the entertainment space is so open for so many different types of deals. There's no cookie cutter deals anymore. Everything is negotiable. To me, there's no such thing as a status quo. Everything is negotiable. And that makes it very intellectually interesting if anyone wants to get in the space of lawyering and entertainment.
Awesome. So Lon Ray and Randy, both of you mentioned instances where talent wanted one thing and the label wanted something else. How do you balance the wants of an artist and the needs of a label?
I think you talked a lot about listening. You know, a lot of times it's conversation. I work a lot, you know, most of our artists are young artists, and a lot of times they're obviously more interested in what it is that they want for their music, you know, from the music side of what they do. And sometimes I have to explain to them the business of it all and how it makes sense, and help them understand why certain things are being asked or certain things don't quite work. And then we can kind of, but it starts with the not, you know, getting in that confrontation for first and foremost, but really trying to spend the time to educate. Like I have an artist right now who we signed when he was 16 going on 17, and now he's 18. And he's been putting out music, and he's like, yo, my fans, they need an album from me. And I'm like, I don't think you're ready for an album. Like you've not been ready to even like really delve into what's gonna take to elevate the music to this next level. I really think it's a mixtape, right? But his deal doesn't have a mixtape in it. And so I really had to explain to him, like, yo, I'm really supportive of you. I really want you to be able to put out a project. I think it's important because he wants to tour. I was like, you need to tour next, and you need a project to tour. So I just explained to him, like, listen, I'll take I really want us to put this project out together. I want to support you on your vision for this project. But here's the deal. It's not going to count as an album unless it does X, Y, and Z units. And if you hit that threshold and you surprise everyone, great, it counts as your album. If it doesn't, cool, we come back again, we try again. But I'm not gonna accept, we can't accept it as an album because again, we did a deal at a certain level, and at the end of the day, I gotta show that like we made progress. And so, but when we had a real conversation about it, it wasn't with lawyers, it was me, his mom, his lawyer was on the phone, but it was a real, that kind of thing. I think he understood, and we got to a place of common ground. So that's kind of, you know, it's all conversation, yeah.
Randy, would you like to add?
I would just add that, you know, I would probably be involved in that kind of conversation because she might come to me if we were at the same company and talk about, you know, how do we maybe restructure his deal in terms of what the expectations are right now. You know, he wants to put out this type of a product. Contractually, his obligation is to put out this type of a product. how do we do that in a way that sort of meets our goals, you know, our long-term investment in him versus the fact that the contract says X. And so, you know, I'll get involved in having conversations probably with his lawyer about how we adjust and, you know, modify things to the extent that both parties are aligned to try to come up with, because the theme that you hear her saying is investment in long-term career. And sometimes I think that's some of the balance that you have to sort of strike with creative talent, and you deal with this every day, is getting them to understand long-term goals when they are interested in short-term needs of their fans.
Right.
And so my role is to get involved and to work with her, for example, to figure out what the business terms should be, and also how to present them to the other side in a way that's going to be palatable, and it's going to make people feel like they have some vested interest in the outcome. And so that's part of like the finesse of being a lawyer, but also a business person, and someone who also understands just like creative motivations. All that factors into this one conversation that she's talking about, that she's having, so.
Great.
If I can chime in too with my manager cap, when you have a dope manager, they also can finesse those conversations and play that role of balance and be the advocate for the artist and make sure that they maintain the great reputation with the label and make sure that everything is being handled by the lawyer as well.
Awesome. I'm glad you jumped in with that note because you previously served as a manager. So could you speak, and Lisa, if you could also jump in on this, to the different roles that managers and lawyers play within a deal?
A lot of times people come to me and ask me, especially up and coming artists and emerging artists and discoverable artists, and they say, I need a manager right now. And the first thing I say to them is, actually, you need a lawyer first. Because the most important person on the team is a lawyer. And I hope I'm giving them the correct advice. Because you can sign a deal, you can get a deal into a crazy deal with an agent or a promoter, and managers don't have I literally can read a contract. And I have read some contracts. I don't have a law degree. I have noticed that there is one word in a sentence that can totally alter the meaning of an entire contract. And I've noticed that because I've asked some lawyers. So with that being said, I always say a lawyer is the most important person in the team, and that's who you should get first before you get a manager as an emerging artist.
I would, it's self-serving, but I would agree. And the reason is, often the first contract somebody is presented with is a management contract. And so you don't want to sign that because often people unwittingly sign production company deals in connection with management, so that suddenly they're not directly contracting with the record company, they are contracting through their manager. And if, you know, and they're double dipping. Sometimes the manager is also promoting or producing something, and you want to make sure there's no double dipping. The other thing that happens is the manager will say, well, I get a commission on everything I've done for you for the end of time on that particular project. Well, what happens when that management contract is up and you need a new manager and you have new product under the same deal? If you don't have what's called a sunset clause, where that management commission goes down to zero, you're in a situation where you're potentially paying 30 or 40% of your income out. So that's just with respect to management versus lawyer, that's why it's important to have the lawyer first. And then in the deal making, what I always say is I'm part of a team. So I work with managers and agents, but I'm finding more and more that everybody is very happy to say, well, here's the offer. Lisa, you want to put together the counter? They're not doing, it used to be that managers and agents would say, well, we make the deal, and then the lawyers deal with the paperwork. More and more, lawyers are both making the deal and dealing with the paperwork. So you want someone who understands the business and understands what's market, and also someone who is going to carefully read the contract. But I used to say, when I was younger and hanging out, I would say to hip-hop artists, do not look for me in the club at midnight because I have to be lucid to read your contract the next morning. So I'm not your girl. If you're looking for somebody to hang with, I'm not your girl. If you're looking for somebody to protect you, that's what I do.
That's such a good point because I find a lot of times artists like.
Sorry, Lon Ray, could
can
you
hear me?
use the mic?
Oh, yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you.
You know, by the time, things are happening and it's time to do a deal, sometimes that will be the first time they're thinking about finding a lawyer. And I think finding a lawyer, same as finding a label, it's about the right partnership and finding the right person, right? And so you see, people just go rush and make a decision and go find a lawyer. And meanwhile, that lawyer, all they want to do is make the biggest check possible. Right? And so sometimes you see it in real time where it's like, like maybe we were the better home, but this had a bigger check in it for the lawyer. And that's where they ended up going and their career went nowhere. And you knew that was going to happen. Or the lawyer where it's like they come in, they find the lawyer and you're like, that lawyer ain't gonna pay attention to what's going on in this contract, which is awful, but that happens too. And so I think taking the time before it's too there's too much hysteria around it to really pick the right partners and partnerships across the board, management, the same thing, and vetting everyone is incredibly important.
I've had a few situations where I've gotten clients out of deals that were bad deals when they signed them. I wasn't a lawyer who helped sign them with the deal, but people get into really unhappy situations where their career is going nowhere and they're stuck. And to the point that the lawyer is really the first person that you should have on your team, it's true. Every contract usually is going to stand up unless you go through a whole lot of rigmarole to try to get out of it. You have a good lawyer, they can find ways to help you get out of it, but if it's drafted well, it may be against you, but it's going to usually stick against you. Lawyers can be a client's best friend. Lawyers are bound by ethics, and ethical lawyers take those seriously. So things you tell your lawyer are confidential. Things you tell somebody else may not be. And also be on the lookout for conflicts of interest. Some lawyers represent across the table, company and the artist, and they'll ask you to sign a conflict waiver. They're a type of lawyers who are deal lawyers. They're not really good transactional lawyers, but they have relationships and they'll help you to get in the door and get a deal. But it doesn't mean your contract is going to be a good contract for you. And as was said earlier, you want to find the right home. This is going to be a relationship that is going to last for some period of time, so it's not just about the money you get up front. It's not just about the people who are in the room as you're signing, because those people may not be there throughout the duration of the agreement. So there's a lot of nuance involved in doing deals, and as has been said, language matters. Teams matter, and you want to definitely make sure you have the right lawyer on your team when you're doing anything throughout the duration of whatever that relationship is.
Great. And so obviously we're hearing a lot about lawyers. This is the business and legal panel. For the attorneys on the panel, could you speak to unanticipated legal issues that either you have experienced during your career or you would expect a budding entertainment lawyer to come across?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. And it's usually when somebody comes to you when they've signed something and they think that they're free and clear to sign something else. So that's one unanticipated issue that comes up. The other issue that comes up all the time has to do with samples and song splits. Creative artists go into the studio with a bunch of people and nobody ever you might give them the split sheet when they go in the studio, but they don't necessarily fill it out. Or they fill it out, but then somebody comes up and says, well, actually, I get a bigger percentage of that song, or I wrote the hook, or something like that. So those are the kinds of issues that come up that are unanticipated.
Or when a producer buys a beat online. Make fun of it. It's free and clear because they spent $75 on it online and actually was sampled from something else. I have stories for days.
Yeah.
Hip-hop.
Yeah, those are good. Those are really good, common ones. Also, just I think people thinking that they can create their own contracts. That is something, especially now in the digital age, where people feel like they can pull off the internet or Chat GBT or whatever provisions they need to sort of piece together an agreement to reach whatever the goal is. And, you know, one of the things I say to other lawyers sometimes who might sometimes ask me, like, hey, Randy, do you know, can you review this agreement for X, which is something is maybe in an area that I'm not familiar with. I often say to them, and they look kind of surprised, and I say, you know what, I can look at this agreement and I can sort of interpret it for you, but I can't tell you what's not in there that should be in there. And I think that one of the things that I see sometimes is that, particularly in the information age where things are so easy to grab bits and pieces of to piece things together, is people think that they can create on their own without having an experienced attorney in that particular subject matter to accomplish whatever goal that they want to accomplish. And that's, again, reinforcing the same idea of, like, you need to get a lawyer first who knows what they're doing because you might have one of those documents put in front of you as a creative to sign at some point. And a lot of times it's short, which is very attractive. You know, it may be 2 pages, it may be 3 pages, and you're just like, oh, I think I can understand this. But the ramifications of it may be multiple pages later in terms of explanation, so.
One of the things that surprised me is how records can hit the streets and then the paperwork not be done for 2 years later.
100%.
And that's just a part of leverage, because those people who haven't signed and haven't gotten paid, well, they're not going to balk at it because they feel like they're not going to be used again if they squeak about it. But it does happen. And that's just a power imbalance that exists. So one thing for new attorneys is to realize there's power imbalances that exist, and make sure your clients are aware of those and explain the business ramifications if they make noise or if they don't make noise. But it all, at the end of it, comes down to having good, solid relationships with people, because contracts are just paper, and breaches happen all the time. And you can try to litigate and never be in industry again, or you can try to smooth it over through a relationship, communication. But as a young lawyer, just know it's not always things aren't always going to go like the law says it should go, or like the contract says it should go. There's business as well.
Thank you. And so, Charlene, you currently work in the country space. Lon Ray, you work with Black music, and we're starting to see a convergence between hip hop, R&B, and country with artists such as Beyonce, Lil Nas X. How does that convergence impact the business of the music space, whether that be in terms of protecting the integrity of a genre or just in signing artists in general?
I think when it comes to whether it's hip hop, country, Christian, it's all cultures, right? It's all different cultures, but it's all cultural music. And I think what we're seeing with Beyonce, she's shedding a lot of light of some of the things that were happening in the country space that needed to be shifted. And one of the reasons why I decided to go into the country space, I think it's a great time in country. When I decided to go from the Christian space into the hip hop space, which I tell my tagline is I went from righteous to ratchet to now Wranglers. When I went from Christian into hip hop was becoming the #1 genre. And now I'm in country and it's the #1 genre. So it's a beautiful thing to ride these waves. It's very cyclical, but all of it is cultural. And I think the thing is just riding these waves and seeing the overlap and the crossover. But music is universal and it's becoming very genreless. And there's a lot of overlap. And it's dope to just see how all of it is just cross-pollinating. And I mean, it all came from one place. We all know that anyway, so.
And so a lot of people ask me, why do we call it Black Music at Atlantic? And it's because, for me, in my entire career, I've just never believed that there's any bounds to the abilities of Black musicians to influence all music and culture, right? And so that to me has been incredibly important, and I think it's been a beautiful thing to see. One of the things she and Charlene and I were talking about earlier, I feel like one of the challenges I've had with like the boundary breaking artists, especially Black artists, sometimes to be your own people, right? It's been a real fight for an artist like Breland, who was signed very early on, who's a country artist, to get some of the gatekeepers and tastemakers in the traditional Black music spaces to embrace his story and his narrative. Lizzo was one I had to fight a lot of people in my own building. Like, yes, she's making pop music, but she's a Black girl from Houston and like has been influenced by all of this, and an incredible musician, songwriter. Like, we have to take this thing seriously. And so I think as we're seeing more, and I'm just seeing it more and more, just the success in our artists just being able to dominate so many areas. It's been a beautiful thing to watch. Yeah.
Thank you. And then this is to anyone on the panel. Can you speak to how social media is changing the music business, whether that be in regards to the types of deals you're seeing artists engage in, or just the way music is made today?
There's so many places, right? Obviously TikTok, right? TikTok especially, I feel like was very influential in how things got signed in the last couple of years. But I think that there's been, people are realizing that like, just because somebody made a song in their bedroom today and they put it, like hit the TikTok lottery, does not an artist make. And it's been a beautiful thing to see people come back around, I feel like. And like, we've always kind of stayed the course, and like, there still had to be an artist behind that. I think that I see the psychological impact that social media has on a lot of our artists. I spend a lot of time in that space, as far as, you'd be surprised, like, an artist will post something and you'll see the million positive comments, and it will crumble them, those 5 negative. And every day becomes a struggle of trying to get them past that. Or by the way, when artists is like, oh, my fans are waiting for the music, and you're like, not really, not yet. So there's that aspect of it. The other beautiful thing of social media, I feel like creatives connecting, like you see so many, artists finding a producer from Japan or from the East, and making music like across the internet and BandLab and all this stuff. So there's obviously pros and cons and different ways that it's shaped and changed, how music is made and how the industry works.
And so this next question is for Lisa. What type of deals are you seeing your clients enter into, and how have you seen those deals change over time in the industry?
Well, I've been in the industry for so long, it has changed in that, the labels used to own the masters, and now more artists are able to own their masters because the masters are worthless. That's why they're allowing them to do that. Labels are doing kind of what production companies used to do, and doing 360 deals and wanting a piece of everything that an artist might do. So those are the big changes that I'm seeing. And then what I see is that artists have to make money in all kinds of ancillary areas. I have artist clients that they're doing, early on, they're doing brand deals, they're doing almost like they're influencers, and high fashion brands are coming to them because they're an artist and they have some following, but that's where they're making money, because they're not really making money on their music, except for in live performance. So that's what I would say.
We're going to move on to a slightly happier topic.
Good.
And so I want to ask each of you, what is your favorite career memory while working in the industry? And we could start with Charlene.
Oh, my.
I figured we were going to.
Yes. Okay. There's a dog. The dog has a memory. I think for me, and this was at the time I just quit my job at Sony. My family thought I was crazy because, I was working at Sony. I had a job with benefits. Why would I quit my job to go work with this hip hop artist that just became famous on SoundCloud, an app that they never heard of? and moved to LA to go be an artist manager. What is that? My family did not understand any of these things. And this was November 2019, and Trippy's project, A Love Letter to You 4, just came out. And I remember we were in Australia, and we just came out, and it was Coldplay's album, Frozen 2 soundtrack. And I was like, yeah, we're gonna be number 3 on Billboard. It's okay. Like, this was the best rollout we ever did. We recorded, first of all, he was dating a high-profile person at the time they broke up. If you know the story, you know. It's on the album. He recorded that project in 2 weeks. We filmed all the content in 2 weeks. Videos, photo shoots, everything. Everything that we wanted to do from a marketing standpoint, press standpoint, promotion standpoint, everything was executed flawlessly. I remember looking at him and saying, is there anything that we could have done differently? And he was like, no. Is there anything we could have done differently? I was like, no. Everything was flawless. We were happy. And I said, no matter where this lands, it's gonna, like, this was the greatest body of work for you. This was the greatest marketing that I've put my heart into. And we got a phone call when we were in Australia, and the head of the label, Elliot Grange, said, the album is #1. And I was like, oh my God, I did it. Like, this was the best choice that I made. And at the time, I was told there's only 2 Black female managers independently that have managed a hip hop artist that had a debut #1, and it was me and Deb Antney that were able to make that happen. So that was the greatest moment in my career.
That is an amazing story. Okay, mine is also a hip-hop story. You have already outed my age, so I don't mind telling this story. So early in my career, I represented Spike Lee and Public Enemy. And Spike was working on a movie, and I don't know that it had a title yet, but it was going to take place in Bed-Stuy. And he said, Lisa, call Chuck, tell him I need an anthem. And so I called Chuck. I was like, okay, I represent, you were talking about waivers earlier. I represented Spike and Public Enemy, but somehow they worked out doing the deal. And then when they were going to film the Fight the Power video, they said, we're going to do a march in Brooklyn. So I lived in Fort Greene. I walked over to where the march was, and there was a trailer, and I hung out with Chuck and Flav and everybody in the trailer the whole day while they shot the video. And I can still rap every word of that song. 1989, a number, another summer, get down. Anyway, that's my favorite industry.
That's cool, that's cool. Mine, I never forget. One of the main reasons that I remember I was very interested in working at like record companies is because I was always fascinated with how music how it got to our attention, like how it became something that like we, was very important to us from the artist creating it to it getting to the place where it was important to us. And so I was always interested in that process, and I knew that happened at the record company. And so when I got the opportunity to work at the first record company I was able to work at, which was RCA Records, I had an experience where they pulled a group of us into a small conference room that was really a conference room where you would have maybe no more than like maybe 12 people meet. And they pulled like about, 30 people into this conference room, and there was a piano that was there all the time that nobody ever used. And one of the A&R executives brought in this artist that he said he wanted us to hear in this small conference room. It was like 30 of us. We're like all standing kind of like tight. And we're like, okay, like who is this? And he brings this artist in, and she's super petite. Maybe she's 5'2", maybe 5'1", and very shy. You could tell, very visibly, not making eye contact with all these people. There was about as much distance because of the size of the room between us and her as not even from here to these front row of seats. And so the A&R executive sits at the piano and begins to play a song at the piano that I can't recall. And this young lady begins to sing, and as I'm saying this now, I feel the hair rising on the back of my neck. And her voice was so powerful that it felt oppressive. It was going through your body. There were no microphones. She was just singing, and it was so powerful. We all just like began to like look at each other, like it was like, I feel it in this moment. And I remember understanding in that moment why I wanted to be where I was in that time, and to understand how that happened. And that young lady was Christina Aguilera. Wow. And I'll never forget that moment. So.
So I've had a lot of great memories having done this for as long as I have, but I figure I'd tell this story because my sister is actually here. But I forget when it was, but she, we're always sharing stuff on social media, and she's like, there's this chick on Instagram, she's a stripper, but like I like her or whatever, and so, I started following her, and I'm like, who's this loudmouth chick, whatever, she's funny, okay, I keep going back, she's funny, she's witty. And then, followed her long enough to be like, she's really smart. Like, she would say some really smart things. Her name is Cardi B. I'll get to that part of the story. But, was starting to follow her career. I don't watch a lot of those reality shows, so wasn't really tapped into that. But, realized she started making music, and she had put out a mixtape. She had put up a tour on her own, and, thought like, wow, this is and again, because I'd been following her from that perspective, just saw something different about her and the way she thought about things. It was just so charming, whatever. So anyway, one of our A&Rs was like, hey, I want to bring her in. And I was like, absolutely, immediately. Like, I think, a lot of people are like, why? But I was like, no, we absolutely need to meet her. And what I was just so blown away with her was just her mindset. And I was talking to one of your former students who's here today about how important mindset is. And I always say this about her. She had the eye of the tiger. And like, you can be as talented as you want, but if the determination, the drive, the work ethic is not there, including in the studio, as far as making the music, it's not going to work. And so anyway, we ended up signing her. Everybody was like, why? Like, we were on a run. By the way, we were on the highest run at the time when you said, like, when hip hop was like back, like we were like the leaders of that wave, and everyone was like, why would you sign a reality star? And so we had a lot of, there was a lot we had to fight through with that because people didn't really take her seriously. And, we day by day, we kind of got there, started putting out music. Couple records, I thought we're gonna be the one. Lick, I thought we put Offset on Lick. I thought that was gonna be it, wasn't. And then Bodak Yellow hit. And I don't want to say that I knew that was going to be the biggest record in the planet, but when I heard it, I was like, okay, I feel like this could be it. And when I went to Atlanta like 2 weeks later and everyone was saying every word, I was like, oh, wow, we have one. And so you would think that the first thing someone does when they start to have that kind of hit record is that they would be like, oh my gosh, I should really get in the studio and finish my album. And that's never what happens. What happens is they start getting, every bag thrown at them, go to this show, go to that show. They're on every plane chasing whatever that moment is. And that's what happened, right? And so she kind of was like running around doing too much. And the thing that actually finally slowed her down was she came to us one day and said, don't be mad, but I'm pregnant. And we were like, okay. And we had a certain window of time that we had to, there was a time window that we had to finish this album and put it out. And by the way, this whole entire time, kind of hiding it, no one knew. And so we literally went to Miami. We posted up at Circle House. It had to be no one had to know she was there. It was me, Craig Cowman, Daryl, who brought her in. And, all of the producers and writers that helped us kind of finish that album and just one of the most incredible kind of like recording experiences I've ever had in that, like, we literally finished it in a month. And to come out and do what it did and, win Grammys and prove just everybody wrong, and the fact that she ushered in, I think, a whole new wave and generation of women in rap, doing it her own unique way. So yeah, that's one of my best memories.
So mine is slightly different. I do have a private practice. I've represented people who have had successes. One of my clients wrote Boot Up, maybe your favorite song, one of my favorite songs. That was a proud moment, Joelle. But my proudest career achievements and most favorite moments have really been through my students who have gone on to do things in the industry. The first rap president is a lawyer named Aaron Rosenberg, who represents, Justin Bieber, Jennifer Lopez, John Legend, to name a few, sitting in his office, and he's, basking in the success of what he's been able to do over his career. It's about empowering to me. It's about teaching to me, passing it along. Ethan Schifferis, another former rap president. He's at Donald Passman's firm, who wrote the book, Everything You Want to Know About the Music Business, and their firm represents, I think, Taylor Swift and Adele. Kirkland Lynch, who just became CEO of a sound design company called Barking Owl, whose music is in so many different commercials and stories and so forth. So these are my achievements. These are my proudest moments. And, as I've sort of said earlier, it's all about passing information along. We live in an information age. It's all about passing it along.
And so, Brian, speaking about passing it along, I'd like to ask all of you on the panel to provide our attendees with some advice. First, the best piece of advice that you have been given in your career. And second, the best piece of advice that you feel you can give them at this point in time as budding lawyers or as budding creatives.
So somebody made an observation about me, and they said, what makes you a good lawyer is that you take time to reflect and think and learn. You're not just running at 24 hours a day without ever taking a step back and processing and learning. That's a current client of mine who said that, but he compared me to a legendary lawyer named Larkin Arnold, who had great ears and observed that, doing what I'm able to do, and I've been able to live in two different worlds, practice and academia, I have time to study and learn. And it's so important for any person to continually be learning and trending. One of the benefits I have is working with students who I have to stay 2 steps ahead, 3 steps ahead to be able to teach them, and they teach me. So as a budding person in any industry, take time to learn, always learn, because things are changing, the game is always changing.
I think when I think about a piece of advice that was given to me early in my career, which was the saying, your network is your net worth. And I think early on, I kind of looked at it kind of like social climber-ish, right? Like I was like, I don't know if that's, I'm not like a networker, right? I just like to make genuine relationships and friendships and be of help to people. That's I've always, you talk a lot about empowering people and helping people. That's kind of where I've always come from. But as you start to be in this a long time, you realize that the relationships that you have are everything as far as what you're able to make happen, how you're able to help more people, and how you're able to do stuff for your artists and that kind of thing. So that piece to me is incredibly important, is just managing your relationships and being vast in your relationships. Not, I try to know everybody, then, whether it's the agents, whether it's the lawyers, whether it's, creative people, young managers. I really do like to spend a lot of time with that. And then I think a piece of advice I would give, one thing I just live by is always, in all things be kind. That's a big thing for me. But just secondly, like you said, learning is very important. And I always say specifically to creatives, it's important to understand the business that moves this thing that you're a part of, right? Doesn't mean you have to know everything. It doesn't mean, and you still have to have a team of people around you. But when you have a great team of people around you, learn from them. So the best artists I've seen sit in offices and be like, so exactly, how does this work? You know what I'm saying? Because I just think it does, having that understanding does really help.
Yeah, I second that. You just reminded me I remember when I was at RCA, there was a young man who used to come in my office all the time. He was at that time, he was 17, and he was an artist, and he used to come in the office and sit down, and he knew I was an attorney, but I was a young black attorney at that point, right? So I think I was very accessible to him. So he would sit down and just ask me random questions. Most of them started with why? Why are there royalties, or why is, all these random questions, but he was super curious. I second that. Always be open and continue to learn. That young man was Tyrese, actually. So, he's still very relevant today. But when I was early in my career, I had a mentor that I met while I was in college, who gave me one piece of advice that I've kept in, and it's connected to what you're saying about being kind. He passed away this year, Kendall Minter.
Yeah.
And he told me this is when I was just learning, or this is the area that I was interested in going into. He said, I don't care if you can't stand them. He said, always return a phone call. He's like, give it 48 hours. He said, but let that be your window when you always return a phone call. He said, for somebody you can't stand who's done you wrong, he said, call them when they're not likely to be in the office and leave a voicemail, but always return a phone call. My advice for young folks of this generation who are coming up, whether you want to be a lawyer or you are trying to find an opportunity in the business per se, is I believe that you are disadvantaged because of the technology that we have today to some degree with respect to this word, and it's patience. You have to have a higher degree of patience than maybe you are typically comfortable with having. But if you are driven and focused and you want to be in this business in some capacity, it will come. The opportunity will yield and present itself to you, but you do have to have a higher level of patience than you might otherwise be used to because of the instant gratification that technology provides us now. So I would just, give that as a word of advice.
Okay, I have something not nearly as profound as what everyone else has said so far. The best piece of advice that I got early on in my career as an entertainment lawyer, as the name partner came by my office and he said, remember, your clients are not your friends. And what he meant by that was not that you should be cold or mean to your clients, but that creative people are charismatic, and you can mistake their charisma for a deeper personal connection. And if you do that, and that's true for, I think, managers, executives, anybody in this business, if you do that when they suddenly decide, I'm getting a new lawyer, or I'm going to another label, or I'm switching management, you'll get your heart broken. And recognizing that this is a business and that you have value, and the business is more fun because of what we work in, and the conversations are more fun than if you're representing somebody who's doing an M&A deal. But I thought that was really good advice. And then, just kind of, I would echo kind of what's been said before, which is to meet with everybody. Oftentimes, people get a little bit of a position or a title, and they're too important to meet with people. And then, everything is cyclical. And then when they suddenly need a job or need a hookup, nobody's returning their calls. I'll never forget, I got a phone call. I spoke at something like this at Columbia Law School years ago, and I got a call from somebody, the younger brother of somebody who'd been on the panel with me. And he said, I'm in law school, and I'm really interested in entertainment because my brother's in hip-hop. And I said, sure, you're on spring break, come by and meet with me. And so I met with him, and fast forward a few years later, he managed D'Angelo and became the president of Motown Records. And he said, Lisa, this was Kadar Massenberg. He said, Lisa, you need tickets to the Grammys? I got you. He said, because when nobody would return my call, you took a meeting with me. So that's the advice.
Literally echo every piece of advice that everyone gave, but I think the biggest one is stop and smell the roses. Like today, I am at Harvard. That is a really big deal, especially being a small town girl from Ohio. Y'all are at Harvard, right? Like, this is a big deal. If you go here, you get to have lunch at Hogwarts. Like, every moment, especially in this industry that is going by so fast, there was a moment I remember standing at the Grand Ole Opry, watching Reba McEntire perform, standing next to my boss, who's the first female CEO in country music, and my friend Chelsea Blythe, who came from Def Jam, who, you know, again, a woman, white woman in hip hop A&R, now in country music, standing next to an artist who's the biggest Reba fan that we signed, and we're all standing in the Grand Ole Opry watching this moment. And I just stood there like, and me, a black woman in the Grand Ole Opry, working for a country label, I just took it in. So it's gonna be moments that it's gonna be really hard. Anything that you wanna attain or achieve in life, whether it's career-wise or professionally, it is going to be really effing hard. But just stop and take it in because you've made it this far. And don't take it for granted because tomorrow's not promised. So that's my piece of advice.
I need to clap for that. I know that I was taking mental notes with everything that each of you said. I think that was great, phenomenal advice. We have time for one question from the audience.
Wow. No pressure.
Okay, right there. You can stand.
Hello.
Hi.
That's loud. I said, first things first, I wanted to thank you guys all for coming out. This was an incredible panel. Thank you guys for putting it together. My one question, had a few, but the one that I feel like I should ask that could help me and a lot of people in the room is, what is something that you guys look for in a team around an artist that you guys are considering or that you guys are looking to represent in any capacity?
I'll start. So in hip hop, a lot of times, you know, I can't necessarily expect an experienced team around an artist. That's just real. And so it's great when it exists. And in the same way, I like to evaluate an artist and really see where their head is at, understand like they have goals and ambition and drive or whatever. I do like to be able to see that there's a manager or whatever. But sometimes it's their friend that they grew up with. Sometimes it's just some knucklehead that just, I don't know, got connected to them, their man to them. Like, and so all I really want to know is that person or those people teachable and coachable. And as much as we do artist development, right? But I feel like that's one of the things I'm the proudest about is the number of young managers and young executives that I've helped mentor, develop, because I think that there's a tendency sometimes in labels and like there'll be a young manager, they don't know what they're doing and they make mistakes and everybody's like, get this person out of here, you know? And I've always done the opposite, which is like been that place, that vulnerable place that they can be vulnerable with me and be open that what things they know and what they don't know, and me just help kind of groom and teach them how to get through these situations. And I think out of that, really been able to help like develop an ecosystem of some great managers. So as long as they're open and don't think they know it all, which is sometimes what you get, that's what I look for.
Yep. I echo teachable and coachable 100%. And you'd be surprised, country's not much different.
Really?
100%.
Yeah, I guess I would say the same thing, is if somebody's coming to me, in the first instance, I'm like, okay, are you a good person? Are you somebody that's going to listen? Because I can give the best legal advice, but if a client's not going to listen to it, then we're both wasting our time.
Yep.
So that's what I look for.
Awesome. Let's give it up for our panelists. Thank you so much for all of the wisdom you guys bestowed on us. I know I learned a lot. I'm more than positive all of us in this room learned a lot, so thank you. We are going to take about 5 minutes before we start the next panel. So if you need to use the bathroom, get some water, now's your time to do that, and then be back in 5.